Welcome to the third part of my Advanced Commander series. In this part, I will show you how to play as a commander to maximize your chances of winning in warfare mode. I will only go into advanced detail here. I covered some of the basics in the first video I made, so if you haven't watched that, I would recommend watch it first and then come back here again. I also want to point out that the warfare mode is by far the hardest to play commander in. If you are not that experienced, I would recommend try offensive first and come back to warfare when you are more confident in your abilities. Besides your own experience, you will also need a good team in this game mode. You need players that are communicating and that know what they're doing. But if you are an experienced commander and have a good team on your side, this is by far the most rewarding game mode you can play. You have to communicate a lot and have to make tactical decisions to win the game, and it is a lot of fun for all involved. Since this is such a dynamic game mode, I cannot provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to win like I did in the previous two videos. I can only tell you how to start the game and then give you general ideas of how you have to play it. But in the end, you're gonna have to figure it out yourself. Okay then, I wanna start by telling you what's gonna be the main problem in every round. I think you all know what I'm gonna tell you right now, and everyone who has at least some experience in this game knows this problem. You need squads that are permanently on defense. Especially all the blueberries are gonna be rushing towards the next objective and don't give a fuck about defending. And you're gonna lose this round within 20 minutes and there ain't shit you can do to stop it. I would seriously suggest before you hop in as a commander, you should check the ranks of the teammates you have. If you have no squad leader that is beyond level 30, I would think twice about going in as a commander, because you won't have reliable squads and you're going to be telling the exact same thing over and over again, and there is still a high chance that you lose the game because no one goes on the defense. I personally tend to wait these rounds out. I just wait the 15 minutes it takes my team to lose and then hop in as a commander in the next round, because the next round is very likely to be offensive if the previous one was warfare. And in offensive, it doesn't matter that much if your team isn't so good. As harsh as this may sound, I personally made the experience that it's not worth going commander in these rounds. Even if you win them, it is by pure luck and it's just not fun to be the commander. But if you decide to play as commander, the first thing you want to do is open the chat and ask which squad lead is on comms. My go-to phrase is, do I have a regular infantry unit that is on comms? The squad lead that responds to that is going to be your go-to defense squad. It doesn't really matter if they don't have a full unit. Usually they have some blueberries in their squad and they will tell you, I don't know if they listen to me, but that doesn't really matter. You need a squad leader on comms that stays on defense and that has maybe 2 or 3 squad mates that support him. If you have multiple squad leads that respond to your request, it's important to call one out that goes on defense. The worst thing you can say is, we need somebody back at defense, because then everybody's going to think, yeah, well, the other guy can go back and no one is going to retreat. You have to call one squad lead out and then ask him to confirm that he stays on defense. The other squads that responded are going to be on standby. You will tell them that they have to be on standby at all times. And when the one defensive squad needs support, they have to immediately fall back and start helping. And during the game, you will have to constantly check whether these squads are really staying back on defense. And if they are doing so, recommend them for their behavior. I tend to really shout out and thank them and say, hey, Dog Squad Lead, thank you so much for staying over there, because I know how boring it can be at times to stay back on defense. It's also important to understand that defending doesn't mean staying in the strong point. It means securing the strong point and the area around it. As a general rule of thumb, I would say the squad that stays on defense should stay roughly within the 4 squares around the strong point. Their main task isn't even to actively fight enemies. Instead, they have to prevent a large gathering of enemies. This means they have to mark and take down enemy supply drops and, of course, enemy airheads. If they can't destroy the airheads themselves, they have to mark them on the map so you can put a bombing run over them. During these games, you always have to keep in mind that your main objective is the middle one. You don't have to wipe the enemy off the map to win this game. And this is what you have to tell your team as well. This is what your game has to evolve around. Good. Now that we have this annoying speech out of the way, I'm going to try to actually help you by going into detail on the most important topic in every game, which is garrison placement. And therefore, we're going to be looking again at Omaha Beach. At the beginning of the game, every team is going to be fighting for the middle objective, and the area around it is turned into a neutral zone where nobody can place garrisons in. Yes, you can put airheads into this area, but usually fighting for this objective doesn't take long enough for the cooldown to wear off. The very first thing your team needs is a garrison to attack the neutral objective. The first offensive garrison is even more important than a garrison in the defense point, because at the start of the game, this can't be captured anyways. So the very first supply drop you have is gonna be used for the offensive garrison. To place it down, zoom into the map and search for cover barely next to the neutral zone, but inside the blue zone. Drop the supplies in this location and ask a squad leader to set it up. Usually they will pass that on their way to the strong point anyways, so it's not a big deal to set it up. In the meantime, you will hop into a supply truck and start preparing defensive garrisons. Here it is important that you don't place the garrisons right in the strong point. Instead, try to circle the strong point with garrisons. Try to place 3 garrisons at the same distance away from the strong point. Maybe one of the garrisons is going to be a bit closer than the others, but just be sure that none of the garrisons is actually inside the strong point. Especially with this objective, you will not have constantly people inside the strong point. So at some point, the enemy is going to manage to get into the strong point. And if you have your garrison placed there, they're going to take it down, and the next one is going to be so far away that the enemy manages to capture the sector before your team even gets the chance of reaching the strong point. But if your garrisons are placed a bit further away, the enemy is not going to destroy them all, and your team gets the chance to come back in time and fight back. Setting these garrisons up is also your job while your team is fighting for the middle point. So you will hop into a supply truck, set 2 up, drive to the headquarters, refill the truck, go back, and set up the 3rd one. While you are setting these garrisons up, you can already try to drop supplies to the middle objective. Search for a good spot for a defensive garrison, or if your team is currently losing this objective, search for a spot for an offensive garrison and already drop some supplies there. In opposed to offensive mode, these offensive garrisons don't have to be placed very far away from the strong point, because like I've described earlier, there won't be people in the strong point at all times, So even if they are a bit closer, they are likely to be available. So you can put them around 100 to 150 meters away. Just, of course, don't drop them right in it. If your team captures the middle objective, you want to get garrisons as fast as possible. You still want to try to reach the ideal triangular configuration. But if your team is only present in the strongpoint at the moment, it's completely fine to drop supplies into the strongpoint and build a garrison in the strongpoint. You can later dismantle it and rebuild garrisons in the triangular configuration. Setting this garrison up is not your task, it's the squad leaders. You need players that set it up ASAP. And if you don't have them, you might just consider leaving this round, because then there is no point in staying. Important for you is that from this point on, you will not just have to attack, but also stay on defense. So start asking your squads and call squads out to go back to defend. If the enemy team actually captured the middle objective, I tend to give the squads 1 or 2 more minutes before I want them back on defense. I already call them out, but I tell them something like, if we don't start capping within the next minute, please fall back. Because oftentimes your team starts capturing pretty soon and pushes the enemy back, and then you need everybody over there. From this point on, you would first want to start establishing presence within your own sector. So set up garrisons in the blue zone. If you captured the middle objective, set up more garrisons in the blue zone, try to reach the triangular configuration, and if you did not capture the middle objective, still try to establish presence within your sector first. Set up 1 or 2 more garrisons and then start thinking about attacking. During this time, you start pre-dropping some supplies into the enemy sector. Try to get 1 or 2 boxes down within roughly 100-meter radius of the enemy strongpoint. Later, you will send officers over there to set up the garrison, or you do it yourself. I would always suggest you try to get a blue zone attack garrison as well. This one is going to be placed barely before the enemy territory, but not inside it. This way, you will always have at least one spawn point available to have at least some kind of offensive going. I would recommend you keep at least 2 garrisons close to the locked blue zone objective. This way, if you lose the current one, you can fall back into a solid base and have a proper defense and start attacking again. If you have the middle objective, this is the one where you have the most garrisons around, because the middle objective is the one that you need to win the game. If you manage to push the enemy even further back, I tend to drop the supplies into the next defensive strongpoint and set up a garrison inside the strongpoint. Because now you are so deep in the enemy territory that you will automatically have people that are staying on defense. At this point in time, I would not use a lot of garrisons to go on the offensive again. Use 4 to 5 garrisons in the middle objective and fortify the winning objective. And then you still have 3 to 4 garrisons to work with to set up maybe 1 or 2 at maximum to go on the attack again. But capturing the last objective is always just a bonus and never your goal. Your goal in the first place is to win the game, so you will fortify the winning objectives. If, on the other hand, the enemy manages to push you back, you want to establish presence, especially within your own sector. So try to get up as many garrisons as possible in the blue zone. Use the supply truck and squad leaders and set them up ASAP. That is it what I can give you in terms of general guidelines. But I want to give you one more tip. If the enemy is putting very hard pressure on your own objective and they are not capturing yet, try to drop an airhead right into the enemy strong point or very close to it. Because usually if they are attacking so hard, there is no one defending. And if this airhead lands, you will always have 2 or 3 blueberries spawning on it. And they will instantly start capturing and put pressure on them and away from you. Just be sure that the main team is staying on defense. Usually what I do if I don't have the best team and try this, I say, everybody who listens to me, do not use the airhead. You would wonder how often this works. Before I end the video, I have one more question for you. I've got a lot of footage of me playing as commander. I just feel like it's not very enjoyable gameplay because it's just me sitting in a supply truck and using commander abilities. But if you think it would help you, feel free to tell me. I'm going to edit it a bit and upload it. Okay then, but this is it. I wish you a wonderful day and I hope I can see you in the next one.